The current moment in American politics reflects a deeper confrontation than a routine partisan dispute. What is unfolding between Donald Trump and the United States Congress is not simply another episode of political disagreement, but a fundamental test of institutional authority, constitutional limits, and democratic accountability. In recent weeks, tensions between the executive branch and lawmakers have intensified in ways that are difficult to ignore. Congressional voices across multiple committees have raised concerns about decision-making processes that they argue bypass oversight, strain constitutional norms, and centralize power in ways that demand scrutiny. These concerns are not being framed merely as political objections, but as institutional alarms. At the center of this conflict is the question of authority. Who holds it, how it is exercised, and who has the responsibility to restrain it when necessary. Congress, by design, exists not only to legislate, but to serve as a check on executive power. When that role becomes confrontational, it signals more than disagreement. It suggests a system under pressure. Donald Trump's response to this scrutiny has been forceful and unapologetic. His rhetoric portrays congressional resistance as obstructionist, politically motivated, and disconnected from the will of the voters. To his supporters, this stance represents strength, a leader unwilling to be constrained by what they see as bureaucratic paralysis. To critics, it raises concerns about resistance to accountability and respect for institutional boundaries. This divide is not new in American history. Previous administrations have clashed with Congress over war powers, executive orders, and foreign policy authority. What distinguishes the current moment is the intensity of polarization and the speed with which institutional conflict becomes public spectacle. Every exchange is amplified, every statement dissected, and every disagreement framed as existential. Lawmakers pushing back against the administration argue that unchecked executive authority sets dangerous precedents. Their concern is not limited to one presidency, but to the long-term health of the constitutional system. If Congress retreats from its oversight role, they argue, future leaders may feel emboldened to govern without meaningful restraint. From the executive perspective, however, there is a competing narrative. The presidency, supporters argue, is designed to act decisively, especially in moments of national and global uncertainty. Excessive legislative interference, they claim, weakens the government's ability to function effectively and respond to challenges. This tension between decisiveness and deliberation lies at the heart of the American system, and it is once again being tested. The political environment surrounding this conflict further complicates matters. Public trust in institutions has been eroding for years, and visible clashes between branches of government only accelerate that decline. When Americans see their leaders locked in open confrontation, confidence in governance itself becomes collateral damage. Beyond domestic implications, the situation carries international consequences. The United States has long positioned itself as a model of institutional stability and rule-based governance. Allies and adversaries alike closely observe moments when that stability appears strained. Internal discord can influence diplomatic credibility, strategic partnerships, and perceptions of reliability on the global stage. European leaders and international observers have quietly expressed concern about the direction of American political cohesion. While formal alliances remain intact, uncertainty about policy continuity and decision-making authority introduces friction. When governance appears unpredictable, long-standing assumptions are reconsidered. Analysts note that the current trajectory reflects a broader shift away from consensus-driven politics toward power-centered maneuvering. Institutions that once relied on norms and informal restraint now increasingly depend on formal confrontation to assert authority. This evolution carries risks, as systems built on mutual respect struggle when that respect erodes. Media dynamics also play a critical role. Continuous coverage, fragmented narratives, and algorithm-driven amplification reward conflict over context. Complex constitutional debates are reduced to simplified clashes, reinforcing division rather than understanding. In such an environment, restraint becomes politically costly, while escalation gains attention. The coming months are likely to determine whether this confrontation stabilizes or deepens. Legislative standoffs, procedural challenges, and legal disputes may intensify. Each development will further define the balance between executive ambition and legislative resistance. What is ultimately at stake is not the reputation of any single political figure, but the resilience of the system itself. Democracies are not tested in moments of agreement, but in periods of friction. The ability of institutions to withstand pressure without collapsing into dysfunction defines their strength. History suggests that systems survive when no single branch permanently dominates the others. The American framework was designed precisely to prevent such concentration of power. Whether it succeeds in this moment depends on choices made not only by leaders, but by institutions willing to assert their roles responsibly. This unfolding confrontation serves as a reminder that governance is not merely about authority, but about restraint. Power exercised without limits may deliver short-term victories, but it carries long-term consequences. Accountability, though uncomfortable, remains essential to democratic endurance. As events continue to evolve, the question is no longer who controls the narrative, but whether the system can sustain itself under sustained pressure. The outcome of this institutional struggle will shape not only the immediate political landscape, but the trajectory of American governance for years to come. This is not simply a political episode. It is a defining moment, one that reveals the fault lines, strengths, and vulnerabilities of a system built to balance power, not concentrate it.